What's up, everybody? Joe Quills here with you on this Tuesday night. And yes, I am as bald as my doppelganger, Andy Reid. Uh, interesting day, and I'll get into that as well when we begin the show here. Coming up here, a lot of news here. Nothing as weird as last night with the uh, South Alabama getting screwed out of the NIT. uh, West Virginia getting screwed out of the NCAA. We're kind of watching the playing games right now, the first four as they call it, but I'll kind of keep an eye on that for you here. And if we run long tonight, we will turn into um, we'll turn into um, what's the word I'm looking for here? Because I'm like a little brain dead right now. We'll turn into sidecast mode, but I think that we're going to just do a fairly quick show tonight because I got to be up early tomorrow morning. Had a long day today. Believe it or not, I walked 7 miles today. A lot more than I expected when I woke up this morning, but probably means I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight and not hear my alarms go off starting at 6:30, whatever I decide to put them on at. But a lot to talk about here. Brandon Graham, he announced his retirement. Some hockey news. I know we don't talk enough hockey here. Uh, the carousel has started in college basketball. We already have a new head coach. Tracy Morgan, a scary scene at Madison Square Garden that we didn't talk about last night because we didn't know we didn't have the basketball game on. I don't even think it was on national TV, so we didn't know anything about it. So um, thankfully, he is Tracy Morgan is okay. We'll let you know what happened, and we'll go from there. So I had a very interesting day today, and let me tell you, things were not did not go to plan today. Um, Now, the one thing is, I like an occasional trip to Vegas, even though I don't really need to go to Vegas because I can gamble on the sports. I can gamble on sports on my phone. I can do that. Um, I can go and do whatever. But I like to get away for a couple of days. So if that means that I end up um, getting away for a few days, away from Philly, and go to Florida, go to Vegas, whatever. Um, that's what my plan is usually. Uh, so, so sometimes I'd like to sneak away and head out to Vegas, or maybe even down the shore. That's always an option. But the going down the shore, it's like a one night thing. But um, but I like doing those little things, the little day trips, or getting on a plane for a couple of days, not going for too long, because with me with Vegas it's like a 3 day thing. But the one thing is, and I do want to let you know if you are living under a rock, because at least here the local news in Philadelphia, they are really pushing the envelope on the fact that real ID finally uh, comes to reality May 7th, I think it is. And for a couple of months now, I was saying to Mike, I was saying it to a couple other friends, oh man, I need to get my real ID, because, I don't want to get a passport. But I was talking to AJ last week, and it's like, we were talking shop, Bleacher Brothers shop, and I was like, you're going to make me get an effing you're going to make me get an effing passport, aren't you? So, just joking around, like the little things that we joke about when we're on the phone or together or whatnot. Um, so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get my real ID today. Now, I made an attempt 2 weeks ago, and Um, Basically, the same situation as today. I was like, well, let's head up there. But I made the mistake of going way too late because I didn't get up there a couple of Saturdays ago until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I saw the line. I was like, oh, no flipping way. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to have to go during the week. So last week, I was off on a Wednesday, and I was like, you know what? I should do it today because if I do it today, I can, get my eye test done, and then, by the time the the dilation starts to wear off and my eyes start going back to normal, I will be back doing whatever. I can head up there. So little did I realize that the area that I was at was a pain in the ass to get to the DMV there that I wanted to go to because the closest one would have been in Ben Salem, across from the Chamonix Mall. So I was like, eh. So, but 2 weeks ago, I went up there and I got tied up doing things. And, I got to make sure if I do go on Saturday, if the weather isn't bad, make sure everything's fine. So, went up there a couple of weeks ago. The line was insanely long and everybody's going now. And I should have even did it a couple of months ago, but I didn't do it. But now the news is really pushing it, and they've shown on the news like they showed like Malvern, which is Chester County. The line is unbelievable there. The line's unbelievable in Ben Salem. I'm sure even in Philadelphia, downtown at Eighth and Vine or Eighth and Arch. I couldn't. I keep getting the streets confused because I kept saying Race Street to the person that was in line with me today. It's like Race Vine Arch. Actually, I didn't say Arch. I just said 8th Street, 9th Street, whatever street it is. I don't know. I've been down there in my work office for 4 or 5 years, and you know, it's like, oh, you work from home. I'm like, yeah, well, I did. I did have one day where I had to go into the office because I was testing for the loan that I was on, where I was loaned out to New Jersey. I should say to New Jersey in quotes because um, everything's virtual right now, except for if you're um, a garage tech or those type of jobs at redacted company. But so I was like, you know what? I don't know when this date is, and I am planning right now a trip for the end of April. And I couldn't remember what the day was, but I knew it was after the Kentucky Derby. So the one thing I'm thinking in my head was, let's get it done. Because if I don't get it done, I don't want to be stranded in South Florida, even though that's not a bad thing unless hurricanes come by. Um, I don't want to be stranded in Florida or have to take Amtrak home because I can't get on a plane because I don't have real ID. So I get there about 1:30. I was like, you know what? Well, the first thing is, so I got to the Chamonix Mall first. I was like, man, I gotta take a leak. So, um, and first of all, they're eventually going to build housing at the Chamonix Mall, and it's really sad what has happened to that mall because nothing is there anymore. And then on top of that, nobody's in there. So, so I went to, so I was looking the way I went in. You're like near Boscov's, so I was like, all right, is there a bathroom over here? And there was probably something in Boscov's, but hadn't been in Boscov's in years, so I didn't know. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to chance it. So I just said, I know where there's a bathroom. It's in the food court where most of the places in the food court even closed up. Um, So I went in there, went to the bathroom, did my thing, and came back, went out, and went across the street. The line was really long, but it does move. So, you're going to be in there a while. So, my tip to anybody who's getting real ID, who hasn't gotten it yet, do it sooner rather than later because, even though the weather will probably be nice that last week of April, that turns into the first couple of days of May. Now, that would be a great week to do it, but do you want to stand in a line that would be where you will have to be there at 8:30 in the morning just so that you can be in line and out by 4, let's say, because they were saying that the line at the Neshaminy one went all the way to the end, went like, because you have PennDOT, then you got Ultrazone, which is still there after 30 years. Um, and then you got, I think you have a couple of things in there. Then you got a Dollar Tree. Then you got a barber shop, which I looked at. It's like there is no flip away. I'm paying $50 for a haircut. Um, and then there's like a bakery, and there's another place and another place. So I'm looking. I'm like, yeah, I can see that, especially on a Saturday, especially in the morning. And as you know, with me, I can't do anything before 11 o'clock. So I can't get up there before 12. So So I went up there today. I got there about 1:30, 1:45, and you're in line, you're standing there. It's like, ugh. But it's like, I know from being there when I had to get my new ID that as long as you're inside the room at 4:15, you're good. So I got in there about 3 o'clock, and talking to the person in front of me, and all that, we're having a good conversation and stuff throughout the hour and a half wait. And don't you know, I get all the way to the front, and you need your ID, you need your birth certificate. I mean, this is what I use: birth certificate, social security card, ID, and I had my electric bill. Now, everything was fine until they saw the address on the electric bill. Now, I might have to put a complaint in with the rental office. But it'd be like nothing we can do. So on my ID, it says my apartment building's address, and it says apartment 213. Well, the electric bill said my building address GC 213. So they talked to, she talked to the other person. Like, I need your help on this. And here's the thing. Unlike the other people that were in front of me that were, you know, non-American citizens or barely knew English and were American citizens or whatever, the thing is, they were playing dumb. And the two women that were there had real attitudes. Not going to lie. But so it was like, we can't do anything with this. I'm like, okay, even though I'm pissed, I'm figuring, hey, you know, answer this question. Can I bring this with me? Can I bring that with me? And they said yes. I'm like, okay, because I'm not, I'm not playing stupid like some people were. I want to know what it is that will help me get this real ID before it gets to a point where it will be a wait longer than the first day of Chick-fil-A opening or whatever supermarket, whatever fast food place. Like, for example, Jollibee, which is over by Castor and the Boulevard, Castor and Bustleton, not Castor, Bustleton and Cottman. When they first opened a year or two ago, the line to go through the drive-through was 2 blocks long. Now, granted, you're talking about a car. You're not talking about people just standing in line. Duh, 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 duh. But now you go to Jollibee's. You can just walk right into there and say, "Hey, I want this, this, and this." Even though I don't know if I really want to go to Jollibee's because it's like weird. I think they're Korean, but whatever Asian country they are. But it's a little something there. But um, so basically, they need proof of address, proof that you're an American citizen, proof of this, proof of that, proof of that. Um, so depending on what state you live in, I live in Pennsylvania. I think now that I went through this and I fucked up because I didn't realize that even though you can say, well, federal government does this, this, and this, and and they just said, it doesn't matchy matchy. Whatever. I'm not arguing because I just want to get this over with. Even if I have to stand in line 4 hours on Saturday, because probably as soon as also eligible is over, I will get my ass out of here right away. Have everything ready to go, everything lined up on my desk over there. Envelope, this, that, everything. Just have everything ready to go so that when 11, 11:15, 11:30 comes around, I'm out the door because I'm not fucking around. I want to get this over with. I want to do this. I want to get there. I want to get back. I want to watch the big races on Saturday. Whatever I have to do. So, um, so I waited in line. I'm still pissed that I waited in line and did all that for over 2 hours. Nothing happened. Um, so as I was up there in the Chamonix, I was like, I also think as well, part of the reason why the Chamonix has gone in the shitter is also because they have that shopping center across the street from the mall, from Rock Hill, I think it is. I don't know what road that is, but there's a road there that goes into where the CBS is, where that road that takes you to the little mini shopping mall where the DMV is. Um, so the only thing I would say is, depending on how your state does things, um, just make sure everything matches properly. Because if things don't match properly, you're going to be fucked. And it's going to suck that you're going to be there for 2, 3, 4 hours. And oh, by the way, you don't have the stuff. And this is exactly why I had this, that, and everything in there. It's just that I didn't realize that because it says GC instead of apartment 213, they wouldn't allow it. And you know what? The thing is, you have one security guard in there, was a woman, and when I left, she goes, joking around because she might have seen me like saying "fuck me," to myself, even though I didn't mouth those words or anything. I was just like real calm, and I would have impressed the hell out of my parents, especially my mom, because you know, uh, I said I remember before my mom died when she was in a nursing home or wherever place she was at. She goes, "You know what your problem is? You're too venti." I said, "Too venti? What the fuck am I? Starbucks?" I stopped at Starbucks because I needed to get a coffee because I was up early today. I ran out of creamer. I only had one cup of coffee this morning, and I sat here. I fell asleep. But so the moral of the story is: first, check your DMV or wherever you have to get the real ID. Just make sure everything matches, because if things don't match, this is what they're going to say to you. And you know what? I had no problem with this. And you know what? It was it was nice that although they were two moody old bitches, even though they were extra moody, and you're probably there all day and you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people, and a couple of them were playing stupid, or just didn't know enough English, and that's a problem. But the one thing I'll say is make sure everything matches, because if it doesn't match, you're just gonna have to go another day, which I have to do. So best thing I can say, just checking everything, and I do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking two bills with me that I have. Um, Now, the one thing is, the woman said, "Well, what about a credit card bill?" Yeah, you can use that as long as it has the address on there that matches. So, knowing my luck, I'll have a different person looking at my stuff and be like, "Well, we don't take credit card bills." Oh, God, Jesus Christ. So I'm going to take the credit card bill. I'm going to take a phone bill. I'm going to take another bill. I'm going to take three guys named Bill, and do what I have to do. But the moral of the story is just make sure everything matches and you have what you need, because it's a hassle, and it's even more of a hassle to me because I work 5 days a week, and I'm probably going to have to do it Saturday if the weather isn't bad, because if you're standing outside, you're going to get rained on. Or maybe I go in the rain thinking, hey, maybe these people won't be there because guess what? They don't want to stand out in the rain. But no, my luck, it'll be even longer because people have that same idea. But moral story, make sure everything matches, and just make sure everything is, just check with everything on your state's DMV or whoever does the real ID in your particular state. So that was that, and then I walked up the street to CVS, had to get a couple of things. Then I went to then I went across the street to that shopping center across the street from the Chamonix Mall. Got my hair cut because I needed it bad. That's why I was wearing hats the last few weeks, because the thing is my hair would be all over the place. I mean, but then again, with this being next to nothing, and that's why I get a two clip on my sides and top, because it takes for once it starts becoming noticeable, it's time for a haircut. And usually, what I consider a haircut is when everything starts sticking up and out. So and that was starting a couple of weeks ago. So it's just things just get in the way, life gets in the way, and all that. But um, but yeah, we'll be good for next couple of months with this. And I came back. Now I have answers. It was just. But they did. I mean, they did the right thing. It wasn't. It wasn't. No, you can't do it. They. She was like, I think the one woman was going to allow me to do it. It was just that the other one was like, no. But and I was like, well, what about this? What about this? For next time. Yeah. So I'll play it safe with my phone bill, but I would rather give them my one credit card that I have for a bill. But we'll see. So that was my day in a nutshell, and that took up a half an hour. But um, so, and the reason why as we seg into the sports here, um, the one thing I did say, one thing, um, I did have to do my wash this morning, so that killed a couple of hours. So I was like, you know what? Let me make sure my wash is done, especially for the reason of, you know what? I need a couple of things at CVS because my CVS down at the corner closed. So I was like, well, need, I don't have to go there. And also, I'm outside the city, so a couple of different things I don't have to worry about as well. So it's like, well, I got to go to CVS. And I'm like, well, since I'm here, there's a hair cutter here. That's where I get my hair cut. I was like, yeah, buzz cut, blah, blah, blah. Zoom, all done. So killed about six birds. We killed two birds with one stone once I got denied at the DMV, but hey, it is what it is. So. But one reason why I didn't get there as early as I did was because I watched the Brandon Graham press conference and he announced today that he was retired. And interesting stuff there. And, I think he was a little bit sad. You can hear him sniffling a couple of times, but he was also his typical self, joking around a little bit, hugging all the reporters, everything, because he had a great relationship with the reporters. Even though sometimes he didn't, um, even though sometimes he didn't have the, um, he didn't have any of the. I mean, he occasionally had a couple of issues with them, but it was like because he admitted, "Oh, I said this. I'm not going to watch TV or anything." But Brandon Graham did announce his retirement today, and it was a very insightful thing because he said this was going to be his last year. Then he tore his tricep in the LA Rams game, the first LA Rams game, the regular season matchup. And then he said, "Well, maybe I'm not going to retire." But I think his contract was up after this year anyway, so that's why, um, they let this decision hang for a while because you're a week into the new, or at least a few days into the new calendar year for the NFL. But so he announced his retirement today. He was a first round draft pick out of Michigan in 2010, drafted by Andy Reid, and he spent his entire career in Philly. He holds the team record for most regular season games played with 206, third all time in sacks with 76 and a half. The two Lombardi trophies he helped deliver were placed at either side of him, which was a nice thing that he did. I thought that was pretty cool. And he emotionally read his farewell speech in the team's auditorium, where friends, family, coaches, and teammates gathered to honor him. Now, I do want to say one thing. Those that criticized Jalen Hurts last year, and the whole team deserved to be criticized a year ago when they collapsed from that 10-1 start. But the one thing I do want to say, Jalen Hurts got married last weekend. At least that's what Mike said to me before the show last night. And in my opinion, if he was married last week, because maybe it didn't, maybe Mike was imagining things, whatever. But I trust him at his word that it did happen. So when he could have just went on his honeymoon and said, sorry, BG, I just got married. You know, I want to go on my honeymoon or whatever. I mean, but you can't. I mean, but she's already pregnant. But um, but the one thing is, you can see that he is a leader because even though he got married, he was there in the audience when he was giving that speech. Nick Sirianni was there. A couple other Eagles were there, but the fact that the leader on the field, Jalen Hurts, was there, showed even more respect I have. And I had respect for him because, the thing is with Jalen Hurts, and I've said this probably the last 3 or 4 years that probably since he became the starter full time 4 years ago. The one thing I said with what he's doing with the team is I don't care what he does. I don't care if he throws for 350 yards. I don't care if he runs for 100, even though I prefer whenever he runs, he gets down and doesn't get hit. Because it's sometimes those weird hits that are the ones that hurt you the most. Or even like he had a running play 2 years ago against the Dolphins and he tweaked his knee. And I still think his knee was all screwed up all the rest of that season a year ago. But um, yeah, I said, I'm not worried about him throwing for 350. I'm not worried about him running for 100. The only thing I worry about is what is the score at the end of the game. And if I defined him as a game manager, then I don't care if he's a game manager. What I care about is exactly what happened when he came back um, when he came back from the bye week. All I care about is did our team win or did it lose? And I shouldn't say our team. I should say they, because I'm not part of the Eagles organization. But I am part of the Eagles fan base. But, Eagles, fan bases, they do say we instead of they. And, those pronouns I'm not worried about for the most part. But when I'm here with you streaming or I'm talking podcast or even if, God forbid, somebody wants to interview me, I'm careful with we versus they. Because, if you want to joke around and say, hey, Joe, you're not part of the team, why are you saying we? Hey, so be it. But just the fact that Jalen Hurts was there showed me the leader that he is and how lucky we have him as a quarterback. And, it's just an impressive thing to me. Now, um, so Brandon Graham gave his speech. He had it all written out on his piece of paper, kind of like the way I have my stories highlighted and written out right now. Um, I gave everything I had in this. His voice was breaking. He began to well up, but I don't have no regrets. 15 years ago, I walked into the city as a young man with dreams, big dreams, a little bit of nervousness, and a whole lot of fire in my heart. I had no idea back then what this journey would bring. I didn't know how many times I'd be tested. I didn't know how much I would grow. I sure didn't know how deeply I would fall in love with these fans and the team in the city. And we know Brandon Graham. I mean, he attained legendary status with this team and with everybody in the Eagles fan base. And the thing is, I hate the word nation. Now, every fan base is a nation. Phillies nation, Eagles nation, Flyers nation. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they prefer Chiefs Kingdom. The origin of that, I'm not sure, and I'm not going to challenge that either because I don't I don't have the time to argue with people over. Well, it's not Chiefs nation, it's Chiefs Kingdom. Okay, okay, yeah, but I just think I just don't like. I mean, I just don't like that everybody is a nation. Now, of course, the thing is, the English language evolves. We all know that, and sometimes words change definitions, like the word literally, because it's no longer literally as in something literally happened, but now literally can mean well. Sometimes it literally snowed. No, it didn't snow. It was literally freezing out. No, it was 40 degrees. But you get the idea. So, um, but when you see this, but he became a legend because we all know that strip sack that he had with about 2.5, 3 minutes to go in the game. He stripped Tom Brady, his strip sack, the only time they really got to Tom Brady that game. And it helped secure a narrow win over the New England Patriots. And that was the first Super Bowl win. Um, Now, this says here icon status. Icon, legendary. I guess it's the same thing. I'm using my word as opposed to the article's word, but I guess we can say the same thing. Now, it marked the pinnacle of his turnaround after he was labeled a bust early in his career following a slow start, largely due to injuries. And maybe even the defensive scheme that they had under Andy Reid the last couple of years. Who knows? But he flashed a big smile when the play was brought up. He said, that was always going to be a good one. A Michigan guy against another Michigan guy. It was a big moment in my career, and that's where I felt like things started to get even better from that point on. Sometimes you need a moment like that, and, he did what he had to do. Now, Eagles Lurie, Jeffrey Lurie praised Graham for many memorable moments. Lurie said in a statement, Brandon Graham is the embodiment of everything you want in a Philadelphia Eagle. It was the way he played the game, the way he carried himself that earned him the love and respect of his coaches, teammates, and fans. And maybe it took until that Super Bowl to realize what he was. You know, maybe it just took a while that we got to really love Brandon Graham as a football player. Um, Now, this past season was supposed to be a retirement tour of sorts when the season started. But I mean, he took on an expanded role under defensive coordinator Vic Fangio and was the team's most productive edge rusher early in the season. However, he tore his triceps in late November against the Rams and announced in the locker room afterward that he would miss the remainder of the season. So it's like, and even with us when we're watching the post game, whether whether it was whatever network you're watching, or me watching NBC Sports Philly because that's my local sports channel. He said right away, "It's torn. I'm done. I'm done for the year." So he quietly rehabbed behind the scenes and was able to return for the team's decisive Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs, providing the storybook ending, the one of the most consequential careers in Eagles history. He said, if I didn't make it back to the Super Bowl, I probably wouldn't be up here right now. Very interesting. But he fought to come back. Now, the question is, did he come back too soon? Maybe. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. Because he did re-tear that tricep after the game, during the Super Bowl, but he played through it. And he had that huge arm brace, if you remember. Um, he said, I promise you I'd be begging to come back for one more, but I was happy to be able to make it back to play with my guys, to put that uniform on one last time in a big moment on the big stage. Me being able to be a big part of that, be a part of that, that was all I needed to know. I felt like my prayers were answered, being able to come back, and he was with them. He was with and be with them boys one last time. But Brandon Graham, legendary status with the Eagles. He earned it just on that strip sack that he had in Super Bowl 52. And, I think even though he did get hurt in that final game, even though we didn't know about it until afterwards. But just the fact that he got through that game, we found out that after the game. Um, I think he went out on his own terms. Um, getting to play in the Super Bowl, getting to play for a second ring, a second Super Bowl ring. Now, granted, he has three rings, but one of them is an NFC Championship ring, which doesn't mean squat. But he does have two Super Bowl rings now. So guess what? He's got two rings. Holds legendary status with the Eagles, as many of these Eagles do now. Especially, do we put Jalen Hurts in that category now? Even though he probably has about 5, 10 good years left. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon in 1 year is already a Eagles legend. And the thing is with me, if you know me rather well, sometimes I use that legend status, the word legend, in a sarcastic tone. No, not here. But especially with Brandon Graham, especially with Saquon already, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, they're all going to be legends, and they earned. I mean, he earned himself the right to retire on his own terms. Now, it would have been interesting to see would he have come back for his 16th year here in Philly, because it's not necessarily what not necessarily if Brandon Graham would have gone elsewhere. It would have been, would the Eagles have signed him now? They probably would have, because he was still showing that he can still rush the passer in year 15 of his career. But you have to realize that maybe he was getting a little long in the tooth. So, but Eagles legend retired today. Brandon Graham, good for him. Great career, and hopefully he is feted appropriately. Whether he goes to the Hall of Fame or not, I don't know, but um, it is worth everything. Um, it is worth everything that has happened over the last, you know, all worth what he did in 15 years. So, uh, uh, hola Jose, yo soy Miguel. ¿Cómo está usted? Now, there's some butchering of the Spanish language, but that's cool. Um, uh, just, just yeah, well said. BG will be missed. Uh, and you may have missed the first half hour of the show. I was telling everybody about my trip to Ben Salem today. No, not the parks, to the DMV. I told you what happened, but I actually turned it into a full afternoon, because I went from the DMV there to the CVS to across the street to the mall to get my hair cut. So I kind of teased I was going to do it, but it was just like, what? Screw it. I'm up here. There's one across the street. I looked online. It was like, some days you get onto hair cuttery or whatever site or place you go to, you usually have nothing available. And if you do, it's like 30 minutes before closing. Me, it was like every half hour, boom, 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 boom. So I was like, you know what? If I didn't screw things up, I probably would have been still sitting there at 5:30, because I was playing like a 5:30 appointment. So I ended up going at like 4:30. I got in there at 4:30 and did what I had to do, and let them take care of this mess. And now I look like a civilized human being, a civilized old fart, I should say. But So apparently, good friends. What? Finally, that I got a haircut. I thought about just letting it grow just for shits and giggles, but it's like, well, it's going to get to a point where the caps aren't going to fit anymore. So, and also, it's a real pain in the ass getting the hair to be get back down to normal. So, anyways, we got under 2 minutes left in the first half. North Carolina is putting an epic beatdown on San Diego State here, 39-19. I am so glad um, I did not put any money on these games because I would have had St. Francis. But I'm glad I didn't because I usually fade the SWAC team in these first four games because they're pretty much in the first four every year. Um, and they scored with under a second left to win 70-68. North Carolina's up big right now. We'll see if this San Diego can figure things out or not. But North Carolina is saying, hey, West Virginia, eat shit. Because yesterday we had eat shit Pitt, but eat shit at WVU. But anyway, so little hockey story here, and some people hopefully it doesn't get into um, political talk with some people if they come straggling in here, but it appears that good friends Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, um, they are discussing games between the NHL and the KHL. KHL is the hockey league that is mostly in Russia. I think they have a couple teams in China as well, and I think somewhere else as well. But it's mostly in Russia. Kind of think of it as the NHL having 6 or 7 teams in Canada, even though it's now mostly a U.S. based league, even though it was like half and half at one point. But Donald Trump supported Vladimir Putin's idea to organize hockey games between the U.S. and Russia during their phone call on Tuesday, according to a summary released by the Kremlin. Mike says, "I saw that. What the, you know?" And according to the Russian government, Trump and Putin discussed hockey matches in the USA and Russia between Russian and American players playing in both leagues. Um, my question is, and we do have Russian players that play here in the United States, and I think we still may have Americans playing in the KHL. I don't know. I don't, also with the fact that, KHL, that those games aren't shown over here anymore. Um, they don't, I don't know I don't know if like the NHLPA will say, no, we're not going to Russia. I think if it does happen, it probably won't be for another few years. And if it is a few years, it'll probably be after Trump is out of office, even though he thinks he can get a third term. But the NHL state said in a statement to ESPN, "We have just become aware of the conversation between Trump and Putin. Obviously, we were not a party in those discussions, and it would be inappropriate for us to comment at this time." Could that be Could that be some speak where they may have been? But yeah, it could be. But I take the NHL their word that they were not part of this because I guarantee you it's just Trump is here and here in D.C. and he probably trying to get the war with the war between Russia and Ukraine resolved and everything, and permanent ceasefire, whatever, But um, they don't, But Trump and Putin are buddies, and they're and Trump is a sports guy, even though he killed the first iteration of the United States Football League back in the 1980s because he wanted the league to go play fall ball sooner than what the rest of the league wanted. But that's so. But just to give an idea of the past, the NHL and KHL did play games in the past, exhibition matches. The New York Rangers faced Metalurg uh, Magnetoskarisk in Switzerland as part of a short-lived Victoria Cup in Europe. In 2010, the NHL had two games in the KHL against KHL teams as part of a Premier Challenge series as the Phoenix Coyotes faced SKA St. Petersburg in Russia, and Carolina Hurricanes took on Dynamo Riga in Latvia. Now, the NHL's relationship with Russia changed dramatically after Putin's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The league suspended its dealings with the KHL in March, instructing teams to cease contact with KHL teams and with agents based in Russia. It also terminated its broadcast agreement with Russian television, and rightfully so. Um, Hopefully this was their decision and not the American influence. Hey, you got to. So Russia has been frozen out of the hockey world since the invasion of Ukraine. It was banned along with Belarus from international hockey tournaments by the International Ice Hockey Federation. Now, that ban has been extended through the 25-26 season, citing security reasons. Um, so it's basically about guaranteeing safety for all. Um, so that ban carries through the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan, which is scheduled to have NHL players participating for the first time since 2014. Despite the IIHF's ruling, the International Olympic Committee will have the final decision on Russia and Belarus participating in the games and under what conditions. They could be, the orphan athletes, or they could be, you know, whatever they would term there, or they can just say, "You're not playing. Fuck off." So, we might get the team from the United Arab Emirates getting in there or whatever, but they're not going to. They got a year and a half, 2 years to decide will they get to play. And I think there is qualifying events as well, so they got to make it within the next 6 to 12 months, I would think. So, but Trump made hockey headlines calling Team USA on the morning of their NHL Four Nations Face-Off Championship game in Boston to wish them luck. U.S. lost to Canada 3-2 in overtime. The tournament became politically charged thanks in part to Trump's tariff plans impacting the Canadian economy and his boast about making Canada the 51st state. Personally, I think that Canada should, annex part of the United States, but that's just me. Um, so, but, but Team Canada coach John Cooper said Canada needed a win and players bared that on their shoulders. They took the game seriously, or they took it seriously, probably meaning the game. Uh, this wasn't a win for themselves. This is a win for the 40 plus million people in Canada. These guys know and they delivered. So, but, I don't know if this happens, but it was something that caught my eye tonight when I got back from all my travels earlier today. But, um, you know, I don't think that this will happen in the next couple of years. At least not until the war in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia is over. So it may be a while. Um, and who knows? It probably never happens. Who knows? You may occasionally see something here or there, but I think it's something that'll be initiated by the league and not necessarily the leader of the United States and the leader in Russia. So I don't think it's going to be either one of those that's going to do it. It has to be the NHL reestablishing communications with the KHL after everything that happened almost 3 years ago, or actually it was 3 years ago. So, um, I don't know. And if it does happen next year, let's say, just for shits and giggles, so what? Will I like that they're playing Russia? No, but they can't. But they have that ban right now, so I doubt they'll do anything because I think there's like 6, 7, 8 different steps that need to be done beyond the war ending so that they can go in there. But that's just me, but we'll see. So let's head back home here. And I saw this today, and the coaching carousel in D1 college basketball is starting to spin. And we do have a coaching hire. And ironically, it was the coach of West Virginia whose team got screwed. Well, maybe they didn't get screwed because North Carolina is putting an epic beatdown on San Diego State right now, 47-23. Maybe they knew something. Maybe it should have been that they needed to put West Virginia versus North Carolina instead of North Carolina and San Diego State because San Diego State just did not show up tonight. I mean, being down 24 points to a team that was 1-12 against quad one teams. But so Indiana is a new head coach, Darian DeVries, who was with West Virginia for a whopping one season, goes to Indiana. He gets a 6-year deal. Now, here's a question I have. Is Indiana still a blue blood college? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they've really. I don't think they've actually been to a Final Four um, since Bob Knight left there. I don't think. It may have been one, but if it is, it's not. It's not more than one. I don't think. I'm not going to look it up. Nor do I care. But I think that they really haven't done. I mean, they've gotten into tourneys, but they haven't really done much from what I remember. So I don't think, everybody's saying that this was the number one job. And maybe it is because, you have Villanova and, Villanova has an exceptionally large NIL, even though they don't have one or FBS football. They play in FCS, the old 1AA. And, they've explored a couple of times, do we want to go 1A? But the only problem with that is, but what usually stops even, new journalists who want to write about this or people like me that talk about this briefly, the question is, where are you going to play? Because Villanova Stadium is too small for FBS football. And you can't play at Lincoln Financial Field because that is Temple Stadium, because Temple tried to build on campus and everybody in the neighborhood said, no, you're not doing that. And also it helped. It also was Jim Kenny who also said, no, you're going to play the Link and you're going to like it. And we had these games where 200 people show up and they say the crowd is 15,000. I mean, we've seen those. We've seen those crowds when Temple has really been shit. Now, next year, Temple plays Oklahoma here, and I guarantee you that's going to be close, if not, will be a full house at Lincoln Financial Field whenever that game is. But I guarantee you that that will be 80% minimum for Oklahoma. Or maybe if you have people that are going to that game who are Temple fans, quote unquote, it's probably because they have, they probably got season tickets and they say, well, if you get season tickets for 2024, you got to stay on for 2025. Or, if you want the Oklahoma tickets, you got to sign up in 2024 to watch the shit games all year. That's probably what they did. But in this case, Indiana is the first one that I know of that has signed a new coach. DeVries receives a 6-year deal. He joins the Hoosiers after spending 1 year with the Mountaineers. Um, he replaced interim coach Josh Ehlert, at least I think that's how it's pronounced. He had taken over for Bob Huggins following his resignation in June of 2023. And there was all kinds of situations with the Bob Huggins thing. So in his lone season at the helm um, with the Mountaineers, he led West Virginia to 19-13 record, 10-10 in the Big 12 before the Mountaineers were snubbed on Selection Sunday. And you can argue, well, how do you have 19-13, 10-10? Let me look at NCAA here. Um, North Carolina was 22-13 and 13-7 in conference. But the thing is, all their losses were against top quality teams. 12 of those 13 losses were in that quad one. So they beat up on a lot of bad teams. So you can argue that. But the thing is, the one thing that Mike and I mentioned last night, or at least I think I mentioned it, you lost to Colorado, West Virginia, that is, lost to Colorado, who was the 16th and final seed in the tournament for the Big 12. And Colorado was dog shit this year. So you can say what you want about that. Um, we can really look at different things there. Um, so yeah, it's a real. Um, okay, I did mention. Okay, but it's like you know, North Carolina doesn't have these quad one wins that we talk about now because they got rid of the RPI, which they never should have gotten rid of. But on top of that, you argue North Carolina not beating a top team all year, well, they only beat one. But you can also argue when it mattered the most, North Carolina almost beat Duke in the ACC tourney. West Virginia lost to Colorado. And I don't even think it was close. Let me check one thing here. They lost by 7. But that's not a good win. I mean, that's not a good loss. Um, yeah, that's. Not, I mean, when you want to make an argument that you should be in or should not be in, that Colorado game, in some regards, recent history is what will kill you or help you. And losing to a team that was probably, I think it goes quad one, quad two, quad three, quad four. I'm guessing Colorado was quad four. You lose a quad four game like that during championship week when all the big boys are playing their conference tourneys. There's no, that, you can probably look to that one game. But, um, but allowed Darian DeVries to leave to go to Indiana, which, you know, is it still a blue blood? I don't think so. But if somebody in here who is very into college basketball, and they argue they're still blue blood. What are you saying? Blah 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 blah. Well, they haven't. I mean, they haven't done much in the NCAA tournament since Bobby Knight left there. I don't think. But um, so DeVries said this is unquestionably one of the top jobs in America. And of course, he's going to say that because he got hired. As someone who grew up in the Midwest loving the game of basketball, I've always admired the IU basketball program for its championship level success, tradition, and fan support. Oh, they have waned off in the last 20 years. There's a passion to succeed at the highest levels, both within the Big Ten and the NCAA tournament, and that's a desire that as a coach I share. And maybe he turns things around. We don't know, but this is probably a job that he's not going to leave to go to another blue blood school. If he were to leave there, it'd probably be to the NBA. But I don't think he goes to the NBA. I think he's more of a college coach, at least right now, from what I'm reading here. But he had just signed. He had signed last year a 5-year deal at West Virginia. The total buyout's expected to cost $6.15 million, 4.67 million from his basketball contract, in addition to other expenses per the deal, such as paying the buyout from Drake that WVU paid and other expenses incurred in hiring. So he's going to be coaching his third school in 3 years here. But in some regards, because he's from the Midwest, and he looked up to the program, let's take him for his word. You know, that job does not open up all the time, even though it has opened up more than it should have been over the last 10, 15 years. So this may have been his dream job. It opens up, hey, I want to interview. Or they called them and say, hey, want to interview for this job? So he probably said, you know what? Let's do this. Now, before he took over in Morgantown, he was a head coach at Drake for 6 years, guiding the Bulldogs to 3 tournament appearances in his final 4 seasons. He was 150 and 55 at Drake, winning at least 20 games every season. They won the regular season championship of the Missouri Valley in 2019 and conference championships in 23 and 24. Drake won a first 4 game in 21, the 21 tournament, and lost in the first round to Miami in 23 and Washington State last year. And he had been on staff at Creighton for like 20 years before becoming a head coach, including 17 years as an assistant coach under Dana Altman and Greg McDermott. And this position opened up because Mike Woodson announced in early February he planned to step down at the end of his 4th season in Bloomington. He led the Hoosiers to the tournament in each of his first 2 seasons, but dealt with speculation surrounding his future for most of the last 2 seasons. Indiana missed the tournament both years, being one of the first 4 teams left off this year's field. But DeVries has been a consistent winner over the last 6 years. Drake and I guess you can say he won at West Virginia, but he didn't win anything big like a conference or anything like that. But Here's what I was saying about the Hoosiers. I highlighted, but I didn't really read too much into it, so it wasn't stuck in my head. Um, the Hoosiers, one of the all-time winningest programs in college basketball, and a program with 5 national championships, have advanced past the first weekend of the NCAA tournament just 3 times since reaching the national championship game in 2002. They've also missed 6 of the past 8 tournaments under 3 different coaches. So, maybe I mean, based on how I'm defining blue blood, maybe they need to define, and maybe they need to find that coach that becomes the blue blood. So, maybe they return to blue blood status. They just have to consistently make the tourney, consistently make the second week, maybe even consistently make a few Final Fours under his tenure. You know, and maybe the expectations are too high at Indiana right now. I don't know, but when you win 5 national championships, you're going to expect, your expectations are through the roof. Um, but I think, also you need to build little by little, and expect constant improvement. So, uh, but that's just me, and I could be way wrong. Um, so we'll consider that. So, one last story here, unless somebody wants to bring something up here. Um, Now, Mike and I didn't hear about this yesterday, but maybe I don't even think the game was a nationally televised game, so we didn't know anything was going on. At least we didn't find out until probably late last night. But Tracy Morgan was seen taken from his front row courtside seat in a wheelchair when he was vomiting there. But thankfully, even though food poisoning is not fun, um, he says food poisoning was to blame for his taking ill during Monday's Heat Knicks games at Madison Square Garden, and that he's doing okay. So, and when all of a sudden you just start projectile vomiting like that, um, you have to worry, and also, I mean, we'll talk about some of the health issues that he's had over the last 15 years or so. You kind of wonder, uh-oh, what's going on here? But I think that with everything that you do, when something like that happens, or whether it's a celebrity or just a Joe Schmo, take them to the hospital. The worst thing that happens is you spend 2, 3, 4 hours in a hospital and you get discharged. Well, they kept them overnight because they did show him, or he did post a picture on his Instagram. He had the different things all over his chest, and you know, uh, but thankfully he's going to be okay. Um, so Morgan posted an update on his Instagram this morning, along with a smiling photo from a hospital bed, thanking fans for their concern. And it could be, could have been anything. It could have been that he was having a heart attack or whatever. Uh, I'm about to get to that, Mike. You said the Knicks are 1-0, so Morgan suggested humorously that perhaps his health episode spelled good luck for the Knicks. I'm doing okay now. Doctors say it was food poisoning. Appreciate my MSG family for taking such good care of me. I need to shout out the crew that had to clean that up. Appreciate you. More importantly, and this is the part that Mike was talking about, the Knicks are now 1-0 when I throw up on the court, so maybe I'll have to break it out again in the playoffs, he quipped, ending his post with the Go Knicks hashtag. So at least he can joke around with something that happened, which, out of nowhere you start vomiting, it's pretty serious. Um, I think that if you, um, if you, I mean, and probably with the game action going on, you're probably screwed because you can't get up or anything. So maybe that had something to play in this because if something's not right, you're trying to get to the bathroom right away or a trash can or whatever, somewhere where um, there's not that much cleanup that has to be done, even though you got a puke bag and a trash can that has to be taken out by the end of the night, and you go by that trash can in the concourse and but um, but yeah, um, but yeah, I mean, obviously the MSG staff are taught, like for example, if there's a medical incident, let's figure this out and blah blah blah. So um, So Morgan vomited during the second half of last night's game between the Heat and the Knicks, um, interrupting the action with 6:09 left in the third quarter while workers cleaned up the area around his seat. The delay lasted more than 10 minutes. The Knicks went on to win by 21, 116. Pork Chop, welcome in. Hope you're doing well out there. So he's 56 years old. He was featured prominently during Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary weekend events, both at the SNL 50 homecoming concert and the live SNL 50 anniversary celebration. Um, Now, he has struggled with health issues in the past. Um, he did have a kidney transplant in 2010. And if you remember, he had a traumatic brain injury from a 2014 accident with a tractor trailer that put him in a coma. And, he's had a lot of health issues in his life. Thankfully, he's okay. I think he's cognitively fine, for lack of a better term, um, because he never really talked fast. I mean, he never really talked fast. It sounded like he was talking slow or whatever reason. So he was, you know, maybe at first when he got out of the hospital and went into the public eye, did did come back and maybe some people noticed some things, but he normally talked that way. So probably everything was fine here. So one thing I did not plan, and we're going to do it here tonight, is North Carolina is up 57-29. Jesus. We're going to do an impromptu Philly fade tonight. I wasn't planning on this. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And, you know, let's cue the Tone Look Wild thing. Well, I'm not going to, but let's go here. And what we are going to do is we are going to pick some NIT games. Um, I think what I'm going to do is with the NIT, some of the schools that are there may end up getting upset in the first round. It always seems that way because if you think about it, some of the teams that are in the tournament, maybe some of the players like, I don't feel like playing this fucking tourney. I would rather be in that other tourney that they didn't have us in. And it's exactly why West Virginia said we're not going to play in the NIT. We're not even going to play in the college basketball ground. We're collecting uniforms. Fuck it, we're out. See you later. Um, but I am going to give you a couple of picks here tonight. And this is something that has come up. It just came to me like, you know what? It's the first round of the NIT. There's already been a couple of upsets in the NIT. Um, Georgia Tech played at home against Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State is in the Sun Belt. They play in it's Jacksonville in Alabama. They beat Georgia Tech by 17 tonight. St. Bonaventure hosted Kent State. Kent State won by 19, 75-56. So you do have, this first round is the round that you really can find some big, you can get these upsets here that, in a regular season matchup, not happening. But since it's the first round and some teams are probably half-assing it because like, I don't feel like being here, screw this NIT tourney, and I even said on Facebook today, because I saw an article that popped up on my Google. I got a Google alert on my phone about all these teams that have declined NIT bids, and I think it was like 15 this year. It was 19 last year. I said on my Facebook post, you know what? Just get rid of the NIT and expand to 96 because those 32 teams that are there are probably the 32 teams that are going to be the 32 teams that you'd be adding to the NCAA tournament. Are probably those 32 teams in the NIT. Well, 28 of them. And I gave the perfect example last night, and it got some rave reviews. I said that maybe we need maybe we need to do that. But one of the suggestions I had of why they'll never go that far is, oh, we're going to water it down. Well, you do what I suggested and say, hey, if you don't get a 500 record in a conference or for overall record, you don't play in your conference tourney to get a right to play in this tournament. So, um, so I would have that in place, but I would also another reason why the NCAA doesn't want to do it. They want to have the number one seed playing a bottom feeder, and with a 2014 bracket, they would still play the winner of the 16-17 game, which which will probably be doctored because you know how the NCAA doctored the tournament for the college football playoff this year because you had the top four conference champions getting first round buys. But if you think about it, the way I think about it, it was they were thinking, well, I guarantee you that those top four teams would have been 1, 2, 4, 6, or something like that. Somewhere where you can say, well, they're still towards the top, But what happened was you had so many upsets that you had teams that weren't ranked in the top 25 in the turn in some of the polls that they had during the year, and if they did, they were like down around 15, 20. And you had teams that were you had like 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, and then you had in the championship rankings you had or in the playoff rankings you had like 13 that got bumped up to 3 because they were the third conference champion in Boise State, and then you had Arizona State who won the Big 12, and then you had Clemson who was the last team to get in. You know, they got in because of that fifth conference championship. So you do have. I think personally you give it another year, but oh, we don't like how this worked because after the first round it was all the lower seed that won. So it was like 5, 6, 7, and 8 that won in the quarterfinals, and then the semifinals 8 versus 7. It just happens that every once in a while you have a bracket like that. But in this case, they were trying to get 1 versus 2 when they first dreamt of this matchup, this whole bracket. It's just that it didn't work. And now they want to change it. So if they want to change it, fine. But in terms of the 96, I think one reason why they don't want to do it that way is because, one, if you reseed after the first round, then you got teams having to go from West Coast to East Coast and all that. So you have all these issues here, and you probably get away from the pod system that they have. But but a lot of those teams that are in the NIT, like for example, a Georgia Tech, probably not St. Bonaventure, maybe Stanford, maybe Santa Clara. Some of these teams that have first round home games, like Oklahoma State, maybe these teams have to um, um, maybe they give that number one team a scare in the second round. That may be the case here. And the NCAA doesn't want to have that. They want to have number one, the number one seeds in each region play a literal bottom feeder like an Alabama State or a St. Francis or whoever plays tomorrow night, Mount St. Mary's and American. You want those schools that really have no chance against Duke, Auburn, Florida, and whoever the fourth one is. I don't really care right now. My brain's fried. But um, but until they do that, we still have the NIT, and I'm going to try to give you a couple of upset winners here tonight in the um, NIT here. And what the thing is with the way that DraftKings has this set up, I just have to say, well, this is the NIT matches because I don't think they don't give it any special designation of NCAA versus NIT. But some of the games I will give you here tonight. So starting tomorrow, that's an NCAA game, Mount St. Mary's and American. I'm not going to pick that. Sanford and George Mason, that's an NIT game. I'm not going to touch that. UAB and St. Joe's, you know what? St. Joe's, they had a hell of a year, but this probably doesn't qualify as a major upset. I'm going to take UAB there plus 195. Then we have Florida Atlantic and Dayton. Now, Dayton is listed as the home team here. And I think what's going to happen is Dayton is going to wear their home uniforms tomorrow night. However, because their arena is unavailable tomorrow night or tonight because they're playing at Dayton's arena, that game got flipped to Florida Atlantic. So, um, so Florida Atlantic is a 1-point dog here. And it'll be interesting to see if Florida Atlantic's crowd shows up. And sometimes when you play in these bigger conferences, and I'm using finger quotes even though you can't see me, the one thing is, sometimes these big schools, they have to go to these smaller schools, these smaller arenas like Florida Atlantic, and sometimes it messes with you a little bit. And Florida Atlantic has had a pretty good year, and they good first year under their new head coach. And here's a perfect example of exactly why I say if you know how to read a sportsbook board here, you can help yourself make a little bit of money here. Like for example here, Florida Atlantic is a 1-point dog, and which basically says if Florida Atlantic loses by 1 point, you get your money back. So, whatever. But the thing is, if Florida Atlantic wins this game outright, I think they will, why waste 115 here? Because if you bet $100 here, you're getting $86.95 for a return. So let's say Florida Atlantic wins that game outright. So you're getting $86.95 on your return. Now, let's look at the money line wager here. Minus 102 on the money line. Let's take that $100 wager again. You're going to get $198.03 for that $100. So what you do is you get your $100 back and you get the remaining $98.03. So my question to you, now some people, they're dead set in their wagering. It's like, no, I'm not going to play the money line. I'm going to play this +1. But the chances of Florida Atlantic losing this game by 1 point is infinitesimally small. So if you think Dayton's going to win, you'll want to go here with the -1 and not go with the -118 here for the money line, because you'll get more money off of this -1 wager. But you also have that fallback, whether it's a +1 here of -105. If this ends up Dayton winning by 1, okay, you get your money back. So you get that fallback. That's the only reason why, the only valid argument here. But the chances of a 1-point win by Dayton is very small. So if you're the type of person that wants to bet Florida Atlantic, the chances of winning by exactly 1 point is not great. Or Dayton winning by 1 point is not great, because they're either going to win by 3 or 4, or they're just going to lose the game outright. So this game doesn't mean squat. This line doesn't mean squat. This is basically the same as an even point spread to me. So why, if you think Florida Atlantic is going to win, don't bet the +1. Maximize that return with that -102. So that's my second pick here, Florida Atlantic -102. Furman, North Texas, no. Bradley, North Carolina. SMU. Irvine, Northern Colorado. Utah Valley, San Francisco. Loyola, San Jose State. You know what? We're going to go with the home dog here as well. Now, Florida Atlantic, that's actually Florida Atlantic as a home game, but they still say Dayton is the home team, even though that game is at Florida Atlantic tomorrow. So it's just semantics with the way that the brackets are. So my third game, Loyola has to go pretty much short rest because they lost. Loyola lost they lost in the semifinals, so they have a short turnaround, and then they're going west to California to take on San Jose State. San Jose State, they come into this matchup. Actually, San Jose State comes in with a 15-19 record. They ended up going 7-13 in conference, and this is actually a matchup where it favors Loyola, even though they have to go west for this game. Now, based on my 96 tourney rules and qualifying for your conference tourney to get into a national tourney like this, San Jose State would not be here. So I guarantee you Mike is thinking, oh, he's going Loyola Chicago here. But this is the NIT and strange shit happens. So I'm going to take San Jose State at plus 120 here for my third and final pick here. So my three picks for tonight, for tomorrow's basketball games: UAB money line plus 195, Florida Atlantic money line minus 102, San Jose State minus one, or I'm sorry, money line plus 120. And you know what? I really like I really like all three of these games here. And you know what? Um, you know what? Let's go with the parlay as well. And if this parlay were to hit, it will pay plus 1185. So if I bet $100 on that, I'm getting $1,285.27. So if I bet that for 25, I get 321. If my base was 10, it would be 128.52. Here's the thing. I'm not going to shame you with a small wager. I may say, how the fuck did you get these three teams? And in my case, it's just, hey, fuck it, let's do this as a shits and giggles wager. But so those are my picks, and I'm also going to go with the parlay here. And if this hits, I would get two, three, four, 16 units in the black here. So I'm like minus 3.5, 4 units right now for the calendar year. This could put me well ahead for the calendar year. So, um, so Mike has his final four here. Well, I'll get to that in a second, but the thing is, you can bet on DraftKings, for example, for as little as 10 cents. So if I wanted to do a 10-cent wager, I would get $1.28 back. So, and here's the thing, you don't, you know, if somebody gives you shit for an extremely small wager who is working in a sports book, well, let me rephrase that. If it's an extremely small amount that you're wagering, like 10 cents, like a quarter, like 50 cents. Now, if it's something other than, hey, the house minimum is $5, that's okay. But if a guy or a gal in the um, behind the counter is giving you shit because you're betting a dime, 25 cents, a dollar, $5, and it's not a minimum, and if there isn't a minimum of, let's say, $5, if the minimum is 10 cents like DraftKings has here, call for a supervisor when you know and say, hey, is this a house rule or something? But that's exactly why I like to go to a self-serve machine, because sometimes I like to do some of these goofy ass bets, like some prop wagers that you have like in the Super Bowl and stuff like that. But if you have if somebody gives you shit, you know, and it's not, and you feel it's not warranted, you know, if they give you shit and it's a minimum wager thing, there's nothing you can do. But if it's something where they're just shaming you because you want to bet $2 on a wager, then you have a problem. But if it's a minimum wager issue, then you're SOL. But something to keep in mind if you were to go to a brick and mortar place. So just things to keep in mind when you go to a brick and mortar place. But there's always terms and conditions with everything, and easily, um, you can easily, just say, "Hey, can I have a supervisor?" But but a lot of times, because I know what I'm doing because of everything with all the different um, all the different things that, betting online, betting on my phone, betting on my computer, screen sharing like I do, and just going through it like I know what like I'm a whiz with computers and stuff like that. The one thing I will tell you guys is, there is no shame in a dollar wager, because guess what? And I need to do one thing here because I am streaming these games, and it said, "Are you still watching?" Yes, I am, Comcast. Fuck you. Uh, but uh, so, Mike, are these your final four for the NCAA? Are you going all chalk here, or are these? Oh, I know what it is. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Don't respond. I know what it is. He was telling me who the four number one seeds were. It was just that Mike knows I get these brain cramps or whatever, and I couldn't figure out that fourth one. But given my day today, even though I had the day off from work, it's just me and my Polish heritage showing. So yeah, so those are my picks for tomorrow. Tomorrow night on the show, I'm going to give my final four. I have the bracket printed out, and this is progress, because if you watched last night's show, I was like, I don't know where the fuck these teams are playing. And finally, I got to the point. It's like, hey, you got to figure it out. My computer's being a pain in the ass, but the bracket is printed. I'm going to fill it out. I'm going to fill out all the contests that I'm in, and who knows? Maybe I can win something. So, um, you know, it is what it is. So, by the way, just to let you know, North Carolina is going to advance because because the epic beatdown continues. It is 79-42. So a lot to a little. And, you're going to get walk-ons playing here in a little bit, probably at the 4-minute mark. And I think North Carolina said, hey, West Virginia. But, and I'm going to give a hot take here. And this is not because North Carolina is up by 37 points. This is because North Carolina, okay, North Carolina ends up playing Ole Miss on Friday. Now, it just so happens that the 2-11 seeds that are part of the last four in, they both conveniently play in Milwaukee, and they both play on Friday. Now, in North Carolina's case, who's up 40 right now, I mean, this is record book territory, because I don't think anybody's gotten blown out this bad in a first four game. And this may be a non 116 or 215 matchup where you just shake your head at how bad this beatdown is. But I'm going to say one thing. And this is not because of the fact that North Carolina is currently winning by 40. I said this I said this on the Bleacher Brothers show in chat tonight. And I'm going to say it now. Even though it was at that time that it was North Carolina or San Diego State will defeat Ole Miss on Friday. And I mentioned it to Mike last night, but I didn't go this far as I am tonight. And it's not because of North Carolina being up 40. It's the fact that usually the Tuesday games, for the most part, end up playing again on Thursday. Here, the Tuesday matchup tonight, which North Carolina is going to win and win handily, they don't have to play again till Friday, so they get a travel day where they don't have to worry about anything. And I think they had issues getting to Dayton on Sunday or Monday when they left there. So whenever they left there, they had problems if I remember properly. So I'm going to call my shot here, and we'll see what the line is on Thursday night show because I'm probably going to take North Carolina on Thursday night on the fade. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days um, with these matchups. Um, so so that is going to be it for tonight, and we'll kind of do the same thing we did tonight. We'll keep an eye on the action in Dayton, Ohio. I mean, it'll be somewhat looking at the games live, live look-ins, keeping you updated. It's not a true um, it's not a true it's not a true sidecast. Because we're not talking about the game the whole time. But we're going to do our usual thing and be like tonight, where it's like, oh shit, North Carolina is up 40, but you know but we'll have some news stories. We'll talk about the early game, which will be American and Mount St. Mary's, and we'll talk a couple different things, whatever pops up between now and then. We had our first baseball game of the season in Japan this morning. Um, I could have caught the last three innings of the game, Mike, but yeah, I was aware that the game was on. I was aware that the game was being played when I woke up around 8 o'clock this morning. I just didn't roll out of bed till 9 because I was looking at my phone and doing different things. But, um, but yeah, so baseball's back, but it's back for real next Thursday, and might have to give my baseball picks on next Wednesday's show. So we'll see what happens with all that as well. But that's going to be it for tonight. But before we go, because Mike said to me, you didn't promote also eligible last night. I'm like, well, it's not that big of a deal on Monday night. It's probably not that big of a deal on a Tuesday night either. But also eligible will be live Saturday morning on the Bleacher Brothers Network and Bleacher Brothers channels. We're getting down to the nitty gritty when it comes to um, the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. We have the 100-point races coming up starting on Saturday. I'm just confirming both these races are 100-point races because I don't want to give you bad information here. But yes, both the Jeff Ruby Stakes. And if you see my show on Saturday and you see Jeff Ruby Stakes, Steaks, it's a play on words because Jeff Ruby is a steakhouse in the Cincinnati, Ohio area, and Turfway's right over the river from Cincinnati, in northern Kentucky, and it's right by the airport too. And then you also have the Louisiana Derby, as well. They're both 100-point races, and all the points is for points from for the next 3 weeks are 100 points to the winner, 50 to second, 25, 15, and 10. Um, both races, well, did they draw for the? Yeah, they did. Okay, so the big race on Saturday at Turfway Park is race 12. That goes off at um, 6:25 p.m. Eastern. You got a overflow field of 13-12 will run, and also another thing here, the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Well, they also have a casino at Turfway Park. The purse for this race, which is probably because they have the casino and a little play with everything with numbers and all that, $777,000. Then we go and we look at the field for the um, the field for the fairgrounds for the Louisiana Derby. That goes off as race 12 as well. That goes off at 6:42 p.m. and they have a field of 10 horses here. So we'll be covering those two races on also eligible. And the Fairgrounds Oaks is a Kentucky Oaks race. That's 9 horses. And I did not see the race that was on there. So, but those races will be Saturday morning. It'll be on twitch.tv/ Bleacher Brothers. It'll be on their YouTube. It'll be on their X. It may, and I'll tinker around with things on Saturday because I'll have the time, and I'll be starting to handicap those races as soon as the morning line odds are up. So we have those 4 races this upcoming Saturday, and the following Saturday is um, the following Saturday, it's the 29th, will be Florida Derby and the Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby. So we'll be looking at 4 races that day as well. And then Saturday the 5th, I think that's a weekend that I work. That will be the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct, the Bluegrass at Keeneland, and the Santa Anita Derby at Santa Anita. And for that April 5th show, I have to bring back the blunder that I had on the on one of my streams when I uh, had a little fun with the name Wood. We'll just leave it at that. It is on my um, and I see that somebody did spam in here, and it didn't get into my EV Mux chat here, so I didn't see it on here, but I do see it's on here. So let me just take care of this before I'm done. Evader. And then we ban them. So that's the second person I banned tonight. One on Bleacher Brothers, one on mine. So tomorrow night we'll look at the brackets, and we'll also keep you up to date on the games, and hopefully the 2 games. Well, hopefully the 2 games tomorrow are better than this game that's going on right now, because this has been an ass kicking. So that's it for now. I do appreciate everybody who is here tonight. We have 4 people in the chat right now. Pork Chop's here. Bolt Tear's here. He's listening, and that's fine. You're helping my numbers, and it's the way I feel. And I'm rambling now because I'm done with everything I wanted to do. The one thing I will tell you guys is, you know, listening to the show that helps my numbers, especially if you're watching at twitch.tv/Joe Quills. And if you're not watching on twitch.tv/Joe Quills, come on over. You know, once I get to affiliate, we can have even more fun with everything. And I just have to learn a lot of things from stream elements. But I appreciate Voltaire listening because would I like you to participate? Yeah, but I'm not gonna hold it against you if you lurk and listen to the show because guess what? Not everybody wants to talk, and that's fine. Pork chop said hello, Mike said hello. That's fine. Um, not everybody has to talk. Sometimes you want to listen and hear some information, hear some goofy stories, and I got to talk about my trip to the DMV today, which I have to make another trip because technicalities and stuff like that. But I'm here every Monday through Thursday at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock ish. And I say 9 o'clock ish, not because ish meaning shit, but some days will start on time and some will start late because I am the moderator to Bleacher Brothers Twitch, and if somebody starts their shit, they're gone. So, but I keep tabs of things going on there and stuff like that. So, but join me twitch.tv/Joe Quills. And let's get my numbers up so I can get to affiliate status and I can start doing some fun stuff, even more fun stuff with the Twitch platform. So, but appreciate everybody for joining me tonight. Pork Chop, Big Mike, Voltaire, anybody else who popped in while I was not paying attention to who was in the room, including Astounding Accent, who just got their asses banned for uh, being a spammer. So I do appreciate everybody. We'll do a live tomorrow in about a little less than 22 hours, and I'll get this part of my face clean because I got this done today. Now I got to do this. I told the girl, it was a last second decision. I'll worry about this when I go. But but I do appreciate everybody, and we'll do it live again tomorrow night at 9 o'clock ish, and we'll have some fun once again. We'll go through the brackets, and I'll fill out my brackets for you guys. So I do appreciate everybody, and also check out BleacherBrothers.com for all your sports needs. You have the offers, you have my stuff, the horse racing section, and a whole lot more. So do appreciate everybody. Check them out. Check out that, and if you're looking for a sports book to join, check the offers that are there as well, and use our links that are on there. So I do appreciate everybody. Hope everybody has a great night, and I'll see you in the winner's circle. Have a great night, everybody.